And now, fresh off the convention floor itself, is Alina Habba, senior Trump campaign advisor and Trump attorney. By the way, the senior Trump campaign advisor I want to talk about in just a second. But first, I just want to talk about the convention itself. And I say fresh from the convention. You arrived, what, about 4 a.m. this morning?
Yeah. Yes, the president and his team and the beautiful First Lady. We arrived at 4:30 this morning in Bedminster, New Jersey. I think I was on TV at 7:30 this morning. So we're fresh is not the word, but I'm fighting the fight.
All right. By the way, did the president sleep at all getting in at 4 a.m.?
I'm sure he did, but he was out and about again with his team today and working as usual. But he really is amazing.
It is, and we're going to talk about him. But I want to talk about what happened at the convention itself, because it had so much energy. There's so much, of course, coming right off of the assassination attempt that unified the party and the whole nation, really, like nothing has before, except when that sort of thing does happen. But even Democrats are seeing that there's a unity among Republicans now that they envy. Van Jones, big Democrat, was talking about that this morning. I'm going to play that soundbite. Get your reaction. Roll it.
This whole thing is like this. And
he's
hey, listen.
On the
Hey, guys. The last time I was in a convention that felt like this was Obama 2008. There's something happening.
There is something happening. Can you describe it?
Yes, it's called effectively like a reawakening of America. We miss our old America. I don't think anybody recognizes this version of our country. I don't care what your politics were in 2020. I can tell you that there is a change now, and the change and the energy that I felt in that room for the last, literally since Sunday, every day just got bigger and bigger. And the more people spoke and the more stories they heard about what America looks like now and what it will look like if and when we get Donald Trump back into office, was quite emotional. And it really was an energy that even Van could not deny. I'll tell you that much.
Well, the president talked about it. I've got a brief soundbite from him talking about the energy last night. Roll that tape.
With great humility, I am asking you to be excited about the future of our country. Be excited. Be excited.
But the excitement, frankly, was there in large part. He brings excitement into the room, but there's a certain depth. And again, I think it relates to the assassination attempt. The depth of feeling is stronger, not only in the party itself, but in him. And we saw that in his tone, which was subdued. It wasn't morose. It wasn't sad. But there was something deep about it. Have you noticed that change in him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's incredibly, not that he wasn't before, but he's just more grateful now than ever. I think he realizes every day on this earth is a gift. I think a lot of Americans do, frankly, because the idea that somebody who is protected, somebody who is supposed to have the utmost protection, who's a leading candidate in a political party, could be assassinated in this day and age is an incredibly scary thought. I think that most Americans just thought that was something for the history books. But then when it actually happened in 2024, in front of our eyes, in front of an audience like that again, that's just a choice that Americans make and say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to turn into this. So, yes, I think he's emotionally, obviously more connected to every day on this earth. I think that anybody in his situation would be. And I think that Americans, frankly, are realizing how important every day is here and the choices we make and who leads our country.
And, you know, he talked a lot before the assassination attempt of the fact that, if they weren't coming after me, they'd be coming after you. He literally took a bullet for the team, for not just the team of Republicans, but for the country itself. You spoke to that specifically. You turned that phrase from a metaphor into reality. Roll that tape.
So let us not forget that President Trump did not just take a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania. He has and will continue to take them for each and every one of us.
I think Americans, even those Americans who weren't planning on voting for Donald Trump, saw that happen, and his reaction to being shot so quickly, trying to show the crowd that he was okay and that he was still strong and in spirit. I think a lot of Americans might have been turned to Trump's side by what happened on Saturday, no?
100%. How can you test somebody's strength other than to take a bullet while speaking as a representative of more than half this country and then get up, fight? And not only that, Sunday, David, he didn't even change his flight plans. I flew out with him on Sunday. I was expecting a delay.
Wow.
I was expecting something, a change. Not 1 minute change to our schedule. And he was so dedicated, so resilient. And how can you not get behind a candidate like that? I mean, this speaks to a human level. This is not a political level. It's humanization.
Well, and you know, Hillary Clinton brought up that 4 a.m. phone call that presidents sometimes receive and whether or not they'd be able to deal with that, whoever was running. This is so much beyond a 4 a.m. phone call. I mean, he took a bullet. He immediately responded in a way that would calm the crowd by his reaction to it. And then, as you say, he kept his schedule. I mean, that shows a certain readiness in the spite of whatever is coming at you, which you don't know that. And then you think of President Biden. You know, God love him. I hope he's okay. But the bottom line is, you think of his lack of competence, and yet he has that job. How much more a man who has full competence could do, particularly if it's super confidence of Donald Trump.
Well, the truth is he's not okay. And I think America knows he's not okay. And it's okay to say that because we have a responsibility to Americans that voted for him and those that didn't.
Yeah.
He is the sitting president. And frankly, that is a massive, massive responsibility. He is the sole executive branch member. So if he cannot be up past 8, but we have a candidate who takes a bullet and fights and then goes on his plans as scheduled, walks down the stairs with no issue after being shot in the head.
It's amazing.
I mean, what else do we need to see? It is amazing.
You know, you talked about lawfare. We have a soundbite from your speech, but I'm not going to use it because we're running out of time. But you did talk about lawfare. And I'm just wondering, as you see these cases just fall apart for many different reasons, either they were the construction of the cases was so poor, the behavior of the judge was so poor, the behavior of the prosecutor was, they are all, literally all falling apart. Did you expect that to happen? Are you surprised that, and is the president?
I think we knew that they were shams from the beginning. I know I've been saying it for years. I've been doing this with him for almost 3 years, and I can tell you that I knew from the indictments they were flawed. Constitutionally, they were flawed. The appointments of Jack Smith, the appointments of these DAs, the funneling of money from radical left people to DAs and AGs is un-American. I've been saying it, and I know I'm a bit of a talking head, but at the same time, what I say is a fact, and I know that until it's proven, which it now is, and the American people are seeing with time, I've always said, be patient. They will fall like dominoes. Right. But the judicial system takes time. It does, especially when you have some corruption, frankly, and political bias in the courtrooms, and that is just unacceptable. But yes, they are falling apart. They should, frankly, all be dismissed.
By the way, your new role as senior campaign advisor, is that going to pull away from your role as advising him on legal matters? No, I'm still his attorney. I think the reality is that I wanted, I have a voice that I'm so proud to use. And while we're nearing towards the end of the campaign, it was just a great decision. And I'd spoken to him and he had said, get out there and speak to things bigger than just legal. And I'm so honored, honestly. Yeah. I feel it's such a gift to be part of this campaign team and to be behind President Trump. So he's getting 2 for the price of 1, essentially. He's another great deal maker.
Yeah, what a good deal maker.
I just have to ask one final question.
Art of the deal.
It is part of the news cycle that his next event is going to be inside. Is that going to be as his campaign advisor? Do you know anything? Is he only going to be doing inside events from now on?
I would never speak to the president's security and the measures that they're taking. My priority, as in every American's, is to keep both those candidates safe. Right. He is speaking inside this weekend. But I will tell you that President Trump is excited to get out to a rally. Imagine being shot a week ago and getting right back out in front of crowds. There is, I'm sure, some trauma to that. And he just is showing the most strength I have ever seen in any individual. So I know he's looking forward to going to Michigan.
Okay. Well, we are going to be talking about what role role the government played in protecting him or not, coming up in a next segment. So we'll get into that in more depth. But Alina, we wish you the very best. Stay safe on the campaign trail. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.